What's up everyone and welcome to the club. In today's video we'll be creating a sketch illustration of Nightmare Freddy from Five Nights at Freddy's. Let's begin today's lesson by adding some guidelines to help with the symmetry and balance of our drawing. We're going to start by sketching a line coming down the center of our page. So let's start from the very top. Just going to lightly work our way down towards the bottom. And we don't want to go too dark because we'll eventually want to erase this out. We're just using this as a guide. Now we're going to move to the center and draw another line going across from left to right. So we'll start with the left side. And just stretch that out towards the right. Now from here, I just want to mark off the outside edge of the muzzle. From the center, let's start with the left side. We're going to go out to about here. Just going to draw a short line going across. Now let's take that same distance over towards the right and do the same thing. Now I want to connect the center point with a curve. We're going to draw almost like a half circle going up towards the top, towards that center line. Go across and then back down towards the right. Let's round out the bottom of the muzzle. We're going to connect these 2 points with another curve coming down and then back up. Now at this stage, it's always important to start with the basic shapes before we get into the details. Now let's layer in the cheeks. We're going to step over toward the left. Just going to mark off the outside of the head with a short line. And again, we're going to take that distance over towards the right and do the same thing. Now I want to round out the cheeks. We're going to go out, bend this up. Now I'm going to bend this down towards the top edge of the muzzle. Let's go over towards the right and do the same thing. Going up, down, and then in. Let's place the nose along the top, moving over towards the left, bend this up, and then down. And then from the ends, bend this in and then down towards the center point. Now just up above the nose, we're going to sketch a circle for the eye socket. So we're going to step up, go all the way around, and then in towards the bottom, just up above the cheeks. Let's move over towards the right and do the same thing. And we want to bring that up towards the same height. So you can add a guideline if you'd like to help you out. And then bring that back down. Let's add 2 smaller circles in the center for the eyeballs. And we'll add a small black dot in the center. Now from the top of the eye, I'm just going to mark off the head. We're going to go up, just going to draw a straight line going across. Let's move over towards the left side. We're going to curve the head coming around and then in on top of the cheek. And we want to give it a slight bend coming back in. Just going to round this out. Let's go over towards the right, going around the eye and then in towards the cheek. Now I'm going to blend the side of the head to the cheek with a curve. Just going to round this out. Let's block out the hat on top of the head. So from the side, draw 2 short lines going up. Now I want to make sure that that distance is equal on the left and right side. Bend this up and then down. Let's step in, draw the side of the hat. We're just going to angle this up and out towards the top. And we'll round out the top of the hat. Now we're going to move out to the side, draw 2 straight angle lines going across the center of the ears. And then from the side of the head, step up, draw a straight line going across the base of the ear. And we'll close off the top of the ear with a half oval. And go up and then back in. And we're just using that center line as a guide. Now let's go back down and add some shape to the fangs. From the side of the muzzle, just going to angle this down and then in towards the bottom, to right about there. Close this off with a straight line. From the bottom corners, let's step up, draw a straight line going out. Now I'm going to go back to the bottom corners of the cheek. We're going to bend the outside teeth coming down and then in. Now from the bottom corner, we're going to bend the bottom row of teeth coming down and in. Just going to line this up with this point. Then we'll add another curve coming down and then up like a half circle. From these 2 points, let's bend this out and then down towards the chin and then we'll round out the bottom. Now from the outside, I'm just going to bend the jaw going out and then up towards the side. And we want to pull this up and then in towards the top of the teeth. Now this area along the top, we're just going to separate the gum line with the teeth. So going halfway down, at a curve, coming down and then up. And then we'll do the same thing on the side. Halfway between this line and the bottom, draw a straight line. Let's separate the jaw from the teeth along the bottom. So we step up and draw that same curve, coming across and then up. And from the outside, going out and up. Now I'm going to go back and lightly erase some of these guidelines. Now once we're happy with the general proportions, I'm going to go in with the tip of my pencil and lightly add a second level of detail. Now we're just going to crack the outer edge of the eyes. Just going to add these points and just wobbling this line going around the eye and adding these cracks just randomly. Bring this down along the inside and working our way around the right eye. Now we're just using this as a guide. We don't have to commit to these lines. We can always adjust this later. And then adding a ring around the pupil, around the center. And I'm going to break up the bottom edge of the mouth. Again, adding some cracks going across. And it's almost like adding a chip paint effect. Just pulling this up along the side and out. Now along this bottom, we're going to add the fangs. We're going to start in the center with a curve for the tooth socket. And then from the ends, angle this down in towards the center point. Now I'm going to work our way out towards the side. Start with the socket first, so almost like a small half circle. And we're just going to continue all the way out towards the side. And then again, connecting those 2 points with 2 straight angle lines coming down toward the center point. And then the outside of teeth, we're just going to tuck this in underneath. Let's add a little bit of shape to the gum line, just bending this around and then in underneath the muzzle. Now I'm going to break up the bottom edge of the cheeks. Just working our way out. And then we're going to add that gum line. And I'm going to bend these teeth, coming down and then in along the side. Let's add a little bit of shape to the outside edge of the gums. I'm going to loosely add a guide for those wires coming out from the eyes. Just bending this around and out. I'm going to lightly add some chip paint going around the eyes, just roughing this in. Also adding that chip paint across the top of the muzzle. Now let's round out the bottom of the chin. And now we're just going to break this up with some drips coming down from the gums. Let's blend the jaw into the chin. Now the same thing across the bottom. We're going to start with the gum line. I'm just going to place this up above the chin. And we're just going to bend the fangs, going up and in towards the center. I'm just going to roughen the teeth along the side. Now there's also a row of teeth along the inside. So we're going to start with a half circle just up above the bottom row of teeth. And I'll add some points going up. Now I want to do a similar thing with the ears. I'm just going to break up the bottom edge. Just going around. Break up the inside. And this is just a random shape that we're creating along the inside of the ear. Just going to open up the center. And then along the side, we're just going to attach the ear to the head with 2 bars. One along the bottom and one on the top. Now let's add those bars inside the ears. Now I'm going to add some drips coming down from the top of the head, from the hat. So now that we're done with this phase, I want to take a moment to tell everyone that our memberships are now open. For $1 a month, you can join our exclusive Club Masterclass, you can access all our members-only tutorials, and be a part of our exclusive art camps. If you're interested in taking your art to the next level, then check out the link in the description below. Now let's continue to refine our contours. We move to the tip of our pencil and just darken up our lines. Let's start with the eyes. Start with the outside of that circle. I'm just going to add a light shade along the outside circle, on the outer ring. Now working our way around the outside of the eye socket, just adding those cracks. Now here we can start refining the shape. And then we're going to overlap those wires on top. Just adding a little bit of thickness to those wires. Coming in. I'm just going to layer a couple in behind. Now I'm just going to go back and just darken up the inside of the eyes. I also want to darken up those wires with a medium shade. And then from here, it's going to add a little bit more shape to the nose, just squaring off the outside edge. And then bringing that in towards the middle. Now I want to create a little bit of a highlight along the front. So I'm just going to trace out the nose, almost like an upside down triangle. Now let's darken up the outside of the nose, including the top. And then we want to fade that in towards that highlight, just softening up that edge. So let's start by darkening up the edge on the outside first. And then we'll go back and just fade that in. And I'm just going to shift that shadow over to the right side a little bit. So the highlight will sit along the top. And then from here, it's going to work our way along the outside of the muzzle. And then just bring that down towards that bottom crack. I'm just going to chip this up along the bottom and the outside. I'm just going to work our way around those cracks. in. Now our lines don't have to be perfect. I just want to keep this a little bit rough. It'll add some more texture in our drawing, and we'll just trace out the gum line. Let's darken up the outside of the gums. And I'm just going to gradually fade that in towards the center to create a bit of a highlight. Now in between each tooth, we're just going to add a shadow line, just pulling this up with the side edge of our pencil. And just darken up the top to cast a shadow from that crack top of the gums. Now let's trace out those teeth. I'm just going to lightly shade in the top of the teeth and then fade that down. Let's move back up and just work our way across towards the cheeks. Again, just adding some more cracks as we go. Now I'm going to darken up the gums on the inside, and we're just going to gradually fade that out towards the outside to create a little bit of a highlight on the outside edge. And again, just shading in the top and fading that down. Now we're just going to stay along the top and just finish off the head. Working our way around the perimeter up towards the hat. So add a little bit more shape to that band. Just pulling it out a little bit and then folding the hat underneath. Let's darken up the inside of those bars. And now moving down and adding some more detail to the lower area. Now if you're worried about smudging your drawing with your hand, you can always use a separate piece of paper just underneath. Now let's go back and darken up those gums. Working our way down towards the drips around the teeth. Now let's trace out the inside row of teeth. And bend this around the side. And now we're just going to darken up the inside of the mouth going around the teeth, but we want to start off dark along the top and just gradually fade that out across the bottom. So I'm going to start with the left side first. Okay, so now we're just going to start adding the various tones of the character. So we're going to start at the ears. I'm just going to go with a medium tone all across the ear. And we're going to reserve the shading in for last, because we're going to layer that in on top. And I want to darken up that band in the center, starting with the outside. And we're just going to fade that in towards the middle to create a bit of a highlight. So you want to go darker on the outside. Let's add a medium tone to the hat brim. And then to the top of the hat, again going darker on the outside, and then fading that in towards the middle. Now we're going to go in and darken up those areas inside those drips. So we're going to start with the left side, adding that medium shade. And we can keep this rough. We don't have to get too detailed or specific with that bottom edge, because we want it to look pretty rough. And then going around the eyes. Now I want to go back and just refine those edges. Just adding a little bit more detail. We can also add some cracks coming down from the head. Also working our way around the eyes. And now to give our character some shape, we're going to add some shadows. So we want to imagine that the light's coming from the top left of our page across our character. So the highlights are going to sit along the top left side and the shadows will sit on the opposite side. So let's go to the right side and start adding our shadows. I'm going to start with the muzzle. So I'm going to darken up the side and just fade that across towards the middle. And the shadows are always going to be darkest along the bottom edge. So we just want to taper this out along the top and then darken it up across the bottom. Now the muzzle is going to cast a shadow also on top of the right cheek. So I'm going to darken this up and then fade that out. Now we're going to do the same thing across the chin. So darken up the right side and then fading that in. And we'll add that shadow on the right side of the head. I'm going to add a little bit of reflection on the left side. So we're just going to come in from the side of the head and then darken this in and fade that out towards the right. Let's add some drips and stains coming down. I'm also going to add some shadow across the bottom edge of the ears. Now we also want to cast a shadow from the hat on top of the head, but we want to bend that shadow over towards the right. And we're just going to fade that down. Also darkening up that shadow on the right side of the hat. Now you can continue to add some more shadows and details if you like, but I'm going to finish off by signing my artwork, and that's pretty much it. There's a sketch illustration of Nightmare Freddy from Five Nights at Freddy's. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. If you did, please make sure you subscribe because I'm posting new lessons every single day. I want to thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Hey everyone, if you really want to discover your artistic potential, then join our Club Masterclass membership. For just $1 a month, you'll gain instant access to exclusive members-only drawing tutorials, virtual art camps, and much, much more. Join our thriving community of passionate artists just like you, and let your creativity soar. So just click that link in the description, and I'll see you in the club.